Hello, friends, and welcome to Rip Daddy's House. I am your pal, Dave Makes Noises, and today we're asking the D&D players of the internet, what was the one aspect of your character that was purely for roleplay? Part 1. I'll start. I'm playing a Changeling Monk. The party thinks she's a Dragonborn. Now, the thing that's purely for roleplay. As a Changeling, Monk with the Far Traveler background, she is proficient in insight, perception, deception, intimidation, stealth, and acrobatics, aka it's hard to catch her. She's a good liar and can tell when others are lying. And as a Changeling, she has a +2 for charisma and +1 for an ability score of choice, and of course, I picked wisdom. Her skills are all to make sure she cannot get caught, and so far she hasn't. The only people that know she is a Changeling is the DM and myself. Moral of the story, Changelings are one of the best races, and I advise you check your party for shapeshifters. Edit, I didn't mention the negative aspects of this, so I'm gonna list them here. Para, my character, doesn't come out of her Dragonborn form, so no shape-shifting whatsoever, and for those who have played the Mighty Changeling, you know that when a Changeling adopts the form of another race, they don't get any of the race traits and features. No dark vision, damage resistance, draconic ancestry, all that good stuff. Envoy loved animals. If you left her alone long enough, she'll come back with an animal. This was mostly used when we had downtime days and Envoy was busy, but her baby giant gecko wasn't, so it would wander and interact with someone else's familiar or animal companion. Bane is a by-disaster. I would roll a d10, and that's how attracted Bane was to someone. A random NPC got an 8, Bane's flirty. A 10, Bane is tripping over himself to try and impress them. One time I did a triple backflip tumble as an entrance into a room because he wanted to impress the character he was talking with. Only to get a 10 on the NPC in the room he just burst into and could not stand up because his knees were too weak. Xavier's backstory is a little weird. He was dreamed up by a beholder who obviously didn't know what a human was supposed to act like, so sometimes Xavier is awkward, and other times he acts like a cat because he has a cat and the cat doesn't know how to cat, and he has to teach the cat how to be a cat. Designed a ranger character, but took a multi-class into warlock purely because it made sense into his backstory. Pack of the Chain with an archfey. Played horribly and had just barely passing stats to do it, but it felt right. I made a custom background for my character so I can take Glassblower Tools proficiency purely because my character is called Asmar of Clan Glass Shield and spent a literal century as a simple craftsman doing jobs around the temple. So I have proficiency in Mason's Tools, Dwarf, Blacksmith Tools, Forge Domain, and Glassblower Tools, family history that I will probably never use, but I felt like I have to with that name. My first character I'm playing as is a helpful, joyful, and optimistic goblin fighter with the inheritor background, Nibbles. He got his stuff from his master who died, travels looking for more information about the mysterious rune tattoo his master left him, who died before telling him what it was. This is for Rune Knight, and I plan that when he gets big, he will change in look. He also has a pet rock with googly eyes on it called Hector. Hector is actually a magic item that his master made to be able to call for Nibbles when his master gets too drunk to walk home by himself. Nibbles believes that his rock actually does talk to him, and whenever Nibbles passes an intelligence check, he'll say that it was Hector was the one who told him. When he reaches level 7, I'm going to put the Storm Rune on Hector, so it will be Hector telling Nibbles about upcoming danger. So I had a Barbarian Paladin, and, well, their backstory was purely for roleplay, maybe can bring into a campaign that is entirely based on demons. They were a Paladin for a demon, but only reason was because the demon tricked the village he was from to make them think it was a god. When they found out, they broke their oath and suppressed the Paladin's powers. The reason I chose Barbarian instead of Fighter was more of an out-of-game reason. I did make a good in-game reason, though. Whenever anything involving fake gods or demons, he would get mad. He was never told the reason in-game why they were after this group called the Midnight Garden. All he knew was they were taking magical items. 4 seasons after he was introduced, he found out, and, well, he was already semi-mad from that. Then another player decided to say something that threw my character off the deep end. Can't say exact words, but it was something involving how his character was a god. In comes, that's what my character would do. They grabbed the person's character and tried to punch. Missed. Would have been perfect if it was a hit, though. That is also how the character got retired from the campaign. I like Jester from Critical Role, so I wanted to have a character that reads tarot cards, but more as a con artist style. She does things like tarot card readings, palm readings, tea leaves, etc. in order to scam people. She's also a bard with the performer background, so she's overly dramatic when drawing cards and describing what their futures will hold. In actuality, She doesn't believe in any of it. It's just a way for her to scam people out of their coins, but her motto is, if you're gonna scam someone, add some flair. Surger, my half-elf cleric, whom I will be playing in our upcoming campaign, is a nobody. Always has been. His family didn't want him and left him outside the nearest temple. It wasn't that they couldn't afford to raise a child, they didn't want him. On a whim, born of a rather concrete gut feeling, he was cast out. After years as an assistant in the temple, on the day Surger left the temple, he knew how to use the useless knowledge about the gods that he had accumulated over long hours of study to set up a globally operating pyramid scheme and to displace all the other religions he suffered from, which he had to serve all his childhood. Said snowball scheme is the order of the snowball. In German, a pyramid scheme is called a snowball scheme, a self-created cult that lies at the feet of the all-holy and true God whose name remains unspoken. Each member is forced, contractually, to be part of the cult until they have recruited 2 more cultists. Initiation donations to the order are not only desired, but are sacred and purely compulsory. The teachings of the unique one are imparted by the All-Master Surger, and only he, as a practiced cleric and God-fearing preacher, is able to interpret the will of God and his signs. Members of the order, however, are able to gain enlightenment and thus benefits, which will not be elaborated on, by generously donating or by gaining 10 members for the holiest of all cults. All this has almost no influence outside of role-playing. It is simply fun to embody a confused cleric who tries to draw everyone into his cult and has to misquote holy texts and proverbs in almost every situation, and is always sure that he has the favor of his god and thus never acts wrongly. The downside of the matter is supposed to be Surger's pushy nature, in this case, which has already cost him the one or other friendship/opportunity. My friends and I just started out with D&D, and this annoying mess of a PC was a fun way to play around with the whole rules of magic. I played a dragonborn sorcerer with lofty ambitions of becoming a cook for a while. She brought cooking tools, basic flavor ingredients like salt, pepper, and cloves, would ask about how good the food was, and think to herself that she could make it better. The salt actually came in handy once when we encountered a ghost that we couldn't hear or see, so we spilled her salt on the floor and got it in writing. Another time, I considered lobbing her flower supply at an enemy, then mage-handing a burning torch into the flower cloud. But an ally low on health was right next to the Yeti, so that idea was out. Another thing about her character that I had a blast with was that I played her with as thick a Russian accent as I could manage. Spells with vocal components, said them in Russian. I even learned and wrote down a few Russian swears so she could curse people out while cursing them. However, our campaigns aren't too heavily RP focused, so that idea kind of fizzled out, and she got perma-killed the last session I went to. But if I ever join a campaign with a different group, I just might consider bringing her back. I'm playing a half-elf Trickery cleric who has proficiency with thieves' tools, with a lot of the reason he has that proficiency being roleplay reasons. His backstory has him having been a thief during part of his misspent youth, and the fact that he has hid this from his party. Yes, it'll probably come in handy helping the rogue, but most of the reason he knows thief tools is a backstory that will call into question his morality when the party finds out. Purely for roleplay, my monk is a foodie. I'd never played monk before, so I didn't really think about the level 15 skill when making a level 3 character, and didn't realize that monks stop needing food or water once they unlock Timeless Body. Her older brother and her best friend were both cooks and would repeatedly tell people, if you love someone, you feed them. My monk is convinced Lord Bahamut is her friend because he made the party a stew when he met us on the road. Why would he feed the party if he didn't like us? We were escorting a noble through the mountains during a blizzard, and my monk was sharing her rations with him after realizing he didn't have any. She stopped eating entirely for a week to ensure the noble didn't run out of food before we got him home. The paladin in my party took this as enough evidence to assure the noble my monk had a massive crush on him. It serves absolutely no in-game purpose and results in me wasting money on rations my character doesn't actually need, but you gotta eat your food. Not D&D, but Cyberpunk 2020. In rolling my backstory, my tank of a medic kept getting good relationship rolls to the point that the DM basically had to write the character's wife into the story. When the party needed a backup surgeon back at the base, there she was. At one point in time, we needed to infiltrate a fancy resort to abduct someone, so I took the opportunity to give my character and his wife a much-needed vacation. As my character was a Goliath of a man with built-in body armor, the phrase, "Honey, can you grab the suture gun?" "We need to replace my chest plate," wasn't entirely out of the realm of reality. My changeling is deathly terrified of anything lizard-like, meaning lizard folk, dragons, and even the pet lizard a player character decides to get. It doesn't affect combat, but in roleplay, she has her eye on the lizard at all times. If you watched The Suicide Squad 2021, I didn't, please don't hurt me, it's kind of like what you see there. Hey there, howdy, hello, and thank you for watching until the very end of this video. If you'd like to share an aspect of your character that was strictly for roleplay, please do so in the comments section below. And of course, as always, if you've got another story you'd like to share with the community, please do so over on our official subreddit, r/MrRipper, where we are constantly cultivating a lush garden of stories just like these ones. If you're a DM or a player and you're looking for a group to play with, I would definitely suggest you check out Mr. Ripper's group finder on Discord. It is a sanctum in which you may find exactly the scrappy band of misfits you've been seeking out your entire life. I'm Dave Makes Noises. You've been a peach. Please sub for Nat 20s. Ding that dong to early squad up. We're always so happy to see you here at Rip Daddy's house, and we'll see you next time.